I think they thought that they owned enough of the media that they could sell us any narrative that they wished. And I think, surprising as it is, they didn't really understand that podcasts could possibly be a countervailing force of significance.
Right. If you own NBC News, it's enough.
You would think, right? You know, it's failing to update from the buy ink by the barrel
totally
aphorism. Right. So what happened was, it turned out that a number of us were willing to make mistakes and correct them in real time, to talk about this in plain English with the public, to do so, you know, in Joe Rogan's man cave. And the fact is, people listened because, of course, this was on everybody's mind, and what they were supposed to do to protect, you know, they'd been terrified, and what to do to protect your family's health was a question that everybody wanted to know the answer to. So our ability to reach millions of people surprised those who thought they were just going to shove this narrative down our throats. And this gets me to the WHO, the World Health Organization, and its pandemic preparedness plan modifications. What I believe is going on is the World Health Organization is now revising the structures that allowed the dissidents to upend the narrative, and they are looking for a rematch, I think. What they want are the measures that would have allowed them to silence the podcasters, to mandate various things internationally in a way that would prevent the emergence of a control group that would allow us to see harms clearly. So that's the reason that I think people, as much as they want to move on from thinking about COVID, maybe stop thinking about COVID, but do start thinking about what has taken place with respect to medicine, with respect to public health, with respect to pharma, and ask yourself the question, given what you now know, would you want to relive a pandemic like the COVID pandemic without the tools that allowed you to ultimately, in the end, see clearly that it didn't make sense to take another one of these shots or to have your kids take them, right? We want those tools. In fact, we need them. And something is quietly moving just out of sight in order that we will not have access to them the next time we face a serious emergency.
So you're saying that an international health organization could just end the First Amendment in the United States?
Yes, and in fact, as much as this sounds, I know that it sounds preposterous, but
it does not sound preposterous.
The ability to do it is currently under discussion at the international level. And it's almost impossible to exaggerate how troubling what is being discussed is. In fact, I think it is fair to say that we are in the middle of a coup, that we are actually facing the elimination of our national and our personal sovereignty, and that is the purpose of what is being constructed, that it has been written in such a way that your eyes are supposed to glaze over.
That's right.
As you attempt to sort out what is under discussion. And if you do that, then come May of this year, your nation is almost certain to sign on to an agreement that in some utterly vaguely described future circumstance, a public health emergency, which the Director General of the World Health Organization has total liberty to define in any way that he sees fit. In other words, nothing prevents climate change from being declared a public health emergency that would trigger the provisions of these modifications. And in the case that some emergency or some pretense of an emergency shows up, the provisions that would kick in are beyond jaw-dropping.
So before you get into it, and I just want to thank you, by the way, for taking the time to go through this proposal, because you're absolutely right. It's impenetrable. It's designed to be, to cloak what they're saying rather than illuminate it. What's it called?
Well, the funny thing is, actually, I was looking this morning to find out what the current name is, and the names have actually been shifted slightly. Clearly a feature.
Oh, it's a shape-shifting.
Yeah,
Agreement.
it is.
Perfect.
So what I would do in order, it's unclear to me how much that's just simply designed to confuse somebody who tries to sort it out, and how much that's designed to, for example, game the search engine technology that
Right.
might allow you to track the changes, because to the extent that the name has shifted. So
Smart.
I call it the World Health Organization Pandemic Preparedness Plan, right? And what is under discussion are some modifications to the global public health regulations and modifications to an existing treaty. But all of this makes it sound minor and procedural. What has been proposed are, again, the number of things included here is incredible. It's hard, even for those of us who have been focused on this, to track all of the important things under discussion and to deduce the meaning of some of the more subtle provisions. But the World Health Organization and its signatory nations will be allowed to define a public health emergency on any basis, that having declared one, they will be entitled to mandate remedies. The remedies that are named include vaccines. Gene therapy technology is literally named in the set of things that the World Health Organization is going to reserve the right to mandate, that it will be in a position to require these things of citizens, that it will be in a position to dictate our ability to travel. In other words, passports that would be predicated on one having accepted these technologies are clearly being described. It would have the ability to forbid the use of other medications. So this looks like they're preparing for a rerun where they can just simply take ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine off the table. They also have reserved the ability to dictate how these measures are discussed. That censorship is described here as well, the right to dictate. That of course, misinformation is how they're going to describe it.
Well, in fact, I want to ask you to pause and play a soundbite from Tedros, in which he alludes to this, and I want to get your assessment of it. Here it is.
We continue to see misinformation on social media and in mainstream media about the pandemic accord that countries are now negotiating. The claim that the accord will cede power to WHO is quite simply false. It's fake news. Countries will decide what the accord says, and countries alone. And countries will implement the accord in line with their own national laws. No country will cede any sovereignty to WHO. If any politician, business person, or anyone at all is confused about what the pandemic accord is and isn't, we would be more than happy to discuss it and explain it.
So he's going to be more than happy to discuss and explain the misinformation that you're
Yeah, that is
now spreading.
that is comforting. Well, on the one hand, I must say I had not seen that, and it is tremendously good news, actually. What it means is that once again, we have managed to raise awareness of something in time that there is conceivably a better outcome still available to us. So
They're spooked enough to bother to lie about it.
there's you couldn't have said it more accurately. Yes, those were clearly lies, and of course, his saying that into a camera is supposed to convince you. You know, nobody could possibly lie so directly. So there must be some truth in what he's saying, which is of course nonsense. And anybody who goes back through Matt Orfala's compendium of various things that people have said into cameras over the course of COVID that they then swear they didn't say, months later, knows that these folks are very comfortable at saying totally false things into a camera. It doesn't cause them to think twice or sweat or anything.